If you've seen my videos, you know that I'm a Star Trek fan, and I believe that the Federation of Planets in Star Trek is a socialist society, or at least close to one. I made a deep dive video about this a while ago. I'm a lot more educated now than I was then, and I could probably do it better now, but I'm not about to remake the whole thing. Let's just do a quick breakdown. In the Federation, no one has to pay for their basic needs. Characters like to say that there's no money in the future.
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
They're still using money. We gotta find some.
And money went the way of the dinosaur.
This whole no money socialist utopia.
Humans used to be a lot like ferengi. Greedy, acquisitive, interested only in profit.
They do have Federation credits, which I assume are doled out as some kind of basic income, and maybe you get extra if you work a job. And that's why to them, they don't have money or a monetary system in the way that we do. You can spend credits at places like Cisco's Creole Kitchen or Chateau Picard or the Zephram Cochrane theme park or whatever. But again, you don't have to pay for housing, basic food, clothing, etc. I would definitely call this socialism, or part of socialism. It's probably not entirely accurate to call it communism, but no doubt the Federation has abolished capitalism. You can have a little shop or even a vineyard that's been in your family for centuries, but private ownership of major resources and utilities seems to be gone. Starfleet doesn't seem to have worker councils, but no society is perfect, socialist or not. Now comes the annoying part. When this topic comes up, a lot of people will counter that the Federation is not socialist, it's post-scarcity. I even got this recently in a conversation with a writer from one of the Star Trek series. I don't want to out them, so I won't say which one, and there's like 50, so you won't guess. Okay, what the fuck does post-scarcity mean? Well, they have the replicator, so they don't need to fight over resources. Oh boy. We'll get to the replicator in a moment, but I have to tell you, we're already in a post-scarcity society. We just don't act like it.
You best start believing in post-scarcity societies, because you're in one.
We have enough food for 10 billion people. We have enough housing and clothing and medicine for everyone, because we have built up an incredible productive force on this planet over the past few centuries. This building of productive forces is what capitalism is actually good at. But once we hit this point, it makes sense to switch gears, keep the production, but work on distribution, which is what socialism is good at. Which brings us to the replicator. The replicator is a machine that can resequence matter to create most food, clothing, and materials as needed, like a super advanced 3D printer. Now, motherfuckers who don't read their theory seem to think that if someone invented the replicator, capitalism would disappear and we'd all have everything we need and live in perfect harmony. This is your brain on liberalism. I'll tell you what would happen if the replicator came into the picture today. Workers would have to build them. Even if some of the process was automated, you would need workers along the way, and they'd likely be sweatshop workers in overexploited third world countries. Then you'd have to pay at least several $100s, I would assume, to get a consumer market replicator. And how do you work it? You think you can just ask for anything like Picard does? Fuck that, peasant. You're gonna have to pay a monthly subscription fee to use the machine and pay to license the recipes. You want to replicate a shirt? Cool. Make sure you subscribed at Tier 1 so you have access to the Old Navy line of replicator pods. Yup, you're living in the glorious future, paying for fucking Old Navy K-cups so that human progress and ingenuity never liberate us from the oppressive profit motive. But wait, you forgot to upgrade the operating system. Uh-oh, you're late for work, you got no shirt, and your magic machine is still loading. We have a pretty good model of what capitalists would do with replicators in the Ferengi, who are the stand-ins for capitalists in Star Trek. I don't think they really use replicators on Ferenginar, but Quark certainly replicates food and drinks in his restaurant on Deep Space Nine, and then he sells them, and the Federation doesn't even charge him rent.
I couldn't ask for better landlords.
This is how the pharmaceutical industry works, by the way. Research is paid for by your tax money, and then Pfizer sells medications to you for profit. In capitalist America, you pay twice. Or look at the Voyager episode False Prophets. Two Ferengi steal a replicator and go through a wormhole to the Delta Quadrant where they convince a primitive society that they're gods. Good old-fashioned space imperialism. And the benefit of Marxism, of dialectical and historical materialism, is you avoid getting stuck in these garbage dump areas of thought where you rely on mysticism to make the world change on its own.
You can see the troubles you get into, the swamps you go into, the baby talk silliness you get into when you think without Marx, when you think without class analysis.
You have to make it change, painstaking step by painstaking step, examining the changing conditions along the way and acting accordingly. In the Trek universe, it took World War III, the invention of faster-than-light travel, and a tense, century-long conservatorship under the Vulcans to get to the advanced society we see in the shows. I also theorized that there must have been some kind of revolution during that time, whether carried out by the Vulcans, human communists, or both. The post-World War III era was dominated by warlords and dictators. People were condemned to death by barbaric show trials. Many lived in a wasteland of nuclear fallout. The harmonious United Earth and Federation didn't happen overnight because someone invented the fucking replicator or otherwise magically accumulated more resources than we have now. In fact, they probably had much fewer resources in a devastated world. I think the most important point about Star Trek socialism is that we couldn't have a lot of the positive aspects of the Federation without a socialist revolution. In addition to abolishing private ownership of resources, the Federation has a strong central government with many regional member states, all of whom joined voluntarily. This is, despite what you may have heard, very similar to the USSR. And while we never explicitly hear about central planning, that wouldn't be terribly exciting on a TV show, again, we can infer that they have a centrally planned economy, because that's how every nation that has abolished or severely limited the profit motive organizes and distributes resources. No one's toiling away on Earth or Vulcan or Andoria at a shit job for 8 hours a day just to survive. They work if they want to, or if they want to earn additional credits, but they're free. Most labor is automated. And before you say that's just another aspect of whatever nebulous post-scarcity society you think it is, Marx actually theorized that automation could be a big part of what gets us to communism. Starfleet, a state agency, is clearly the largest employer, and while it functions as their military, its goals are largely exploratory and not imperialist, besides a few cringe exceptions.
This planet will be handed over to the Cardassian government in accordance with the terms of the border agreement, but you will have to leave.
And if we do not,
Then I will be forced to remove you.
No nation state is going to be perfect. So why does any of this matter? Obviously, the comparison isn't one-to-one, and just because the Federation's methods work in a fictional show doesn't exactly prove that they would all work in real life. The important thing is that, whether the writers know it or not, it's a demonstration of how these things could work in real life, with some ideas even taken from the real world. This type of speculative fiction is extremely important, especially in sci-fi and especially in Star Trek. MRI machines apparently function similarly to the tricorder. Cell phones were inspired in part by the original communicators from TOS. Again, 3D printing technology is like a primitive version of the replicator. Machine learning, holographic imagery, video calling, tablet devices, all this stuff was predicted in Star Trek or even earlier sci-fi, and we can take the same inspiration from societal formations in fiction. Thanks for watching. If you like what we do here, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you can, help us out on Patreon. Bye now.